Pain, sadness, just another week of the 2024 Chicago Bears regular season. Welcome in to this post-game reaction for week number 11 between the Chicago Bears and the Green Bay Packers. Bears falling 20-19 to their longtime rival. Doesn't seem like much of a rivalry these days, but here we are to break it all down. I'm Steven Johnson. Alongside me is Zach Pearson. And Zach, we talked about how we were both at the game last week against New England. I don't know, which would you have rather experienced, this or last week in person?
Nothing. I'm out of words, man. Like, I don't even know what to, I don't know. I'm sorry. I wish I had a better answer for you. Just when you think they can't find another way to lose to the Green Bay Packers in heartbreaking fashion, they do it. And, I mean, this time, blocked field goal. Then you have to hear the quote after the game. You know, Kaylin Kaler of ESPN said she talked to some Packers players, and they saw how Cairo Santos has low trajectory on his kicks, and they knew they could have a chance to block it. I don't know the rule of the leverage. I know you're not allowed to line up over the long snapper. They had 3 guys over the long snapper. That rule is called. It's not called. Still, the Bears should have found a way to win that game. They played good enough to beat a Green Bay team that's literally the 5 seed in the playoffs right now.
Right.
I don't know, man. It's heartbreaking.
It's definitely, up there, obviously with the Washington game as the pain meter is concerned. And the fact that for as many good things that came out of this game, and especially you look at the way that the offense looked under Thomas Brown and the fact that Caleb Williams looked like an entirely different quarterback today than he had the last 3 weeks coming out of the bye, and that there's some optimism there for what is possibly to come, that he had over 300 total yards through both the air, completing 75% of his passes, adding 70 yards on the ground, getting the ball out incredibly quick. Just from top to bottom, but still the offense only put up 19 points. And on the flip side of that, the defense, while they did have some major step up plays, obviously the goal line interception being one of them, cutting down the Packers on 4th and 3, also in the red zone, but then having the big plays, obviously the trip up between Jalen Johnson and Christian Watson, and then the 60-yard bomb to Christian Watson. Christian Watson looking like a first-team All-Pro receiver today for the Green Bay Packers. It was definitely a story of ups and downs throughout the day, and I personally keep trying to stick with the positives, but it's really damn hard because even though we experienced a loss today that was not necessarily the cause of ridiculous offensive play calling, it was because you could argue our head coach once again botched the final minute of the game, allowing maybe not the greatest scenario for Cairo Santos to potentially kick the game-winning field goal, letting 40 seconds run off the clock with a timeout in hand and not attempting to get any more yardage.
It was flashbacks of 2019, Los Angeles Chargers, Matt Nagy, Bears failed to win that game on the field goal. I think it was a miss or a block. Man, that was tough because Green Bay went up and scored, and the Bears right away were in 3rd and 20. It was I think they gave up 1 sack prior to that drive, gave up back-to-back sacks, and those were probably the 2 plays that Caleb Williams had no shot on and just didn't look like a deer in headlights at times. Was probably those 2 plays. But then he delivers 3 really good throws, back-to-back to Roma Dunze, throws another nice one to Keenan Allen. They're moving the ball downfield. They're letting the clock go, and which is totally fine. And I'm up in the press box, and I'm like, talking to Gene Chamberlain next to me. I'm like, they have a timeout. There's 40 seconds. They could just go spike it. They have a timeout, run a couple plays. You're probably not passing. I wouldn't mind it a pass, but they run a 2-yard run and then they, put on the left hash. And yeah, I had no confidence in that kick, man. It just felt like something was off. It is the Green Bay Packers. They have some voodoo magic with them. That's just like crazy. But hats off to them. I said it, man. They had their scouting report. They knew it was going to be a low kick. They got their hands up. But just like the feeling that the Bears were so close to finally ending a losing streak to Green Bay. And finally, this is like Caleb Williams is going to get his first win against Green Bay. Like the tides are turning. And, Jordan Love made some great, good throws. I mean, obviously, I think Elijah Hicks turns around and plays that ball better. It's incomplete. I think if Jalen Johnson doesn't slip, it's incomplete. But it was nothing that Jordan Love did where I'm like, wow, future Hall of Famer. I think he's going to be a very good quarterback. But I thought, this was their chance. I've covered 14 of these games in my life, and the Bears have won 2 of them. And I'm just like, yeah.
Maybe you're the problem. No, I'm kidding.
I don't even think it's 2. I think they've only won 1, to be honest. I legit think they've only won 1. Yeah, 1 game. It's just...
It's been well over 2,000 days.
Yes.
Think about that. 2,000 days.
Even the last time they beat them, it was technically a loss because Eddie Jackson got hurt and couldn't play in the playoff game against the Philadelphia Eagles. And there was 6 throws that Nick Foles had that were just lobbed up in the air. And whoever was playing safety back then could not catch any of them. And I'm pretty sure Eddie Jackson would have set a record for most picks by a safety if he would have just kneeled the ball in the end zone. But dude, it's not fun at all, man. It's just
no,
it's crazy. And this was a game at the end, they had that long drive, got it down to 5 minutes on the clock or something like that. 4th and 3. I don't know. I can't really blame Flus for not going for that. That's whatever. But yeah, his mismanagement of things, at least try another ball. And in his postgame, he said, well, there's a risk of a fumble. It's less than a 1% chance of a fumble.
And here's the thing that I really hate about that train of thought is there's clearly coaches who are in the NFL in a head coach role that look at the statistics, look at the odds of what the potential is to do specific plays, or to hold back, to do just what the Bears did. You have a running back in Roschon Johnson, who's your heavy, that has not fumbled once this year. Yes, it's not the biggest sample size for him, but he has not fumbled. You've been moving the ball down the field. You haven't turned the ball over at all. I will give the offense credit. They have been very good at protecting the ball. Maybe to the point of not being as aggressive as they should be. But in this instance, and you mentioned it earlier, the fact that Cairo Santos has such a low trajectory on his kicks, we can even go back to the 53-yarder that he hit earlier in the game, that barely made it over. I mean, we're talking about a kicker, maybe not the strongest leg. He's getting up there in age. He's 32, 33 years old. You got to give a guy who is automatic from a specific range at least a chance to get to that range. And for the fact that you essentially had 2 opportunities to get closer and you gave those up because you're worried about something, like you said, a 1% chance of it occurring, I don't understand how you can battle through that mentality when you've literally just lost your 30th game in 3 years as a head coach, and you're not even through year 3.
And they were aggressive going for it on 4th down multiple times in the game.
Exactly.
What do you have to lose? You have nothing. What do you have to lose? You're playing with house money against the Packers, essentially. I don't know. To me, taking a 46-yard field goal and just assuming, okay, it's what we're going to do. I don't know. It's just his answers. I mean, I said it before. I said it a couple of weeks ago to some people. The Bears are at a disadvantage every time they step on the football field because of coaching. And
Yes.
I don't know if Shane Waldron is the full problem.
No,
I
he's
think he's
not.
part of the problem. But I think
Yeah.
the bigger problem's still there. And I think the bigger problem, all that, like the big one is still like, it's just, everything is so dysfunctional. And it's just, it's, they just find ways to lose games that you're like, what are they doing? Like, he's what, 14-30, I think,
Yeah.
overall.
Yep.
2-11 against the NFC North.
Yep.
He's had 6 games where he's had at least a 99% chance or something like that to win.
Mm-hmm.
Something, I think, including this one. I think they're up there.
Today was 70%.
Oh, 70. Okay.
So, yeah. And I know a lot of folks out there, a lot of Bears fans are really leaning on the leverage call, just kind of similar like the holding calls in the Washington game. The fact of the matter is, I mean, you can't allow that to occur. There's ways to avoid having to hang your hat on a no call. You can't turn to the officiating and say, save me here. Yeah. Whether it is blatant or not, the fact that you can feel confident in yourself to say, you know, oh, they didn't call this. If they called that, it would have been different. You got to do more than that. You have to. And there were times today where it felt like they were doing that and they were in a spot. I mean, heck, they led for the majority of this game today, or at least it felt that way. I mean, they get to halftime with the exactly. I mean, they get to halftime with the lead. They continue to play. They give up the lead. They get it back, and everything's looking pretty darn good. And like you said, you can't fully blame him for not going on that 4th and 3, 4th and 4 after they had converted on the earlier 4th down in that same drive, because, you know, points are points. But at the same time, you have to sit here and say, why change how far the metal is down, like pedal to the metal? I mean, like that, how you can't take your foot off the gas, and they took their foot off the gas at the entirely wrong time. I mean, that's ultimately what happened.
Did you watch the ending of the Bills-Chiefs game?
I did.
That's a team right there that gave their quarterback a chance to win the game.
Yep.
Like, and Josh Allen is better than Caleb Williams. We know. I mean, like, that's Josh Allen's probably the second best quarterback, third best, depending on where you rank Lamar.
Right.
But still, like, Caleb was rolling at the end of that game, man. This is now 2 games Caleb's put you in a position to win, to beat 2 playoff teams. And I saw this image. It was a screenshot of the Hail Mary and a screenshot of the field goal attempt. And it said both had like zeros on the clock, said the Bears lost both of these games. And if they would have won those 2 games, they'd be the number 6 seed in the playoffs right now. They'd be 6-4 with tiebreaker wins over the Commanders,
who
are not going to win their divisions. You know what I mean? They're not going to win their divisions. Philadelphia's probably going to win that division. The Lions look like the best team in the NFC, arguably the best team in the NFL.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Those are 2 wild card tiebreakers. I don't know, man. It's coaching is a big issue with this team, and I don't know how, if you're Ryan Poles and George McCaskey and Kevin Warren and whoever makes decisions up there, and you're like, yeah, let's do this. Let's keep doing this. I mean, I know they're not going to do it in the middle of the season. You know that too.
They need to. They need to.
But dude, and I think they're going to fire. I think he's going to be gone. But like, I still think there's a slim chance they're going to hold on to him again. And that's a terrible mistake, because I mean, look at this. So after the game, he was asked about that, not running another play. And, he said, they're loading the box, all that. And he said, you could say you could do that for sure. Maybe get a couple more yards, but you're also going to risk fumbling and different things there. So again, he's telling you more yards don't matter. The same thing he said against Washington when he said those yards did not matter, and Jane Daniels came up short on a Hail Mary. And then if they would not have given up the 13 yards, it would have been a 72-yard Hail Mary, and he doubled down and tripled down. No, right. He said, well, we're guarding the Hail Mary. What are you guarding the Hail Mary? He can't make it from 60. What?
It and that's the irritating thing, is that we're on this track of Matt Eberflus going to the podium after games and refusing to take any responsibility for what happens on the football field. That his way is the right way, and you know what? He's just doing what should have been done. And that's not, I mean, maybe, and I'm trying to think back if there has been any follow-up at Hallis Hall later in the week, just saying, have you looked at, your train of thought in that moment? What did you learn? Do you still feel like that was the correct way to go about things? And I know they don't like focusing on the previous week. I know that's a no-no when it comes to interviewing at Hallis Hall, but somebody's got to say it, that at some point you need to ask, have you done any reflection over what has occurred over this 4-game losing streak now? You are heading into a very difficult stretch of games. We said it last week. There's a possibility they don't win again this year.
Oh, yeah.
There is a very good possibility. The
Seattle
Lions
San Francisco
look like a freaking steamroller that's not slowing down what they did to Jacksonville today. And I know the Bears played really well against Jacksonville, but that is not the first time the Lions have done that to a team this year.
Look at Jared Goff's numbers from today.
It's insane.
I mean,
absolutely insane. And they did that without Sam Laporta.
Yeah.
He didn't even play today.
No.
And so you squander a chance to get a leg up on the Green Bay Packers at home. This was the easy game of the year against Green Bay. And you squander it because you don't have that closer mentality to do what needs to get done. And you say, good enough is good enough. And Aaron put out a quote earlier from Eberflus on Twitter today. It said, tough times don't last, but tough people do. In what world is this man tough to allow this to continuously happen and show zero signs outside of firing the scapegoat?
Yes.
That says this is going to get better and we're going to get through this, because they're not getting through it. They are now on a 4-game losing streak, and it is not looking up. If anything, this is dropping morale even more, and that entire locker room now knows it.
They were devastated, dude. They were devastated in that locker room. It was, like I said last week, I got on here, I'm like, dude, it was like a funeral. It was like another funeral again. It's like back to back to back to back weeks, like a funeral. It's like the Monstars just took everything out of them when they left London or something like that. I don't think that's like, I don't, talk to Montez Sweat, and I asked her, we talked to Montez Sweat, and he was asked, about like how, like what's going on, how do you, and he's like, there's just stuff I've never seen in my playing career, like how they're losing games and things like that. And it's just, I don't know, man, because you go back to Ryan Poles when he decided to keep Matt Eberflus, he said, the reason why we're keeping him is because when things get rocky, he's been able to hold on to this locker room, and he's a good leader. I don't know, man. Everything that's been coming out the past week, the practice habits, accountability, players are devastated, how they're losing games. Jeez, man. Like, I don't know how he's got this locker room. And I feel for the players, man. I feel for Jalen Johnson. He slipped. He had a bad play. I get it. Like, he's mad at himself. They only get so many chances at this. You know what I mean? Like, it's tough. And they care. Like, they care. They care about losing. They care. They want to win. Trust me. A lot of these guys that have been here have not won anything. Like, they haven't won anything. Like, it just sucks, man, because I just felt as the game was going on, I'm like, they might actually beat Green Bay. They might actually do it. And, like, they played well. Caleb didn't have any touchdowns. I get it. But he played good. I mean, he showed you flashes of what he can do. The run game got going. The offensive line was not a problem at all. The receivers were getting going. There was much, much, much better blocking. Do you notice they were still calling those short throws to the outside, and no one was complaining because the blocking was so much better too.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And that's the thing. And I think one of the things that at least I noticed from the TV side, and maybe you and the rest of the press box did as well, is that there wasn't as much play calling at the line. It was a lot more formed from the huddle to the line, making sure they were going through everything. And Caleb was seeing the field very well. Yes, he had some bad throws today. Yes, there were some that he should have made, but the pace at which they played and the simplification of the offense that which they ran today was night and day from what we saw under Shane Waldron, and all for the better. Because again, there were more offensive line injuries. I mean, you take out the DeAndre Swift big run, he's averaging well below 4 yards a carry today on the ground. Roschon Johnson only averaged 3 1/3 yards on the ground. So the running game really wasn't going much of anywhere, and you had to watch Caleb Williams step up in the moment. And he stepped up in the moment. I mean, when you're finishing 23 of 31, 231 yards, again, 2 sacks in that last drive, but he bounced back. And the fact that was just, and I believe Tom Brady referred to it as an A-plus throw. It was right in the breadbasket to Rome Odunze. And then to follow that up again with Keenan Allen on a ball where only Keenan Allen could get it, he played it perfectly. He did what he was asked to do, and he should have probably been able to do at least, again, 1 or 2 more opportunities to get them out there and to turn a 48-yarder into maybe a 39-yarder. Anything. And it's the fact that there was not any opportunity for him to do that, I'm still trying to rack my brain. The Packers were on their heels. Push him back. Push him back.
It's coaching, man. Like it's just when they step on the field, they're at a disadvantage. And the one thing you said that was important was they were getting the plays in quick. Like we were not seeing that with Shane Waldron.
No.
They had to call a timeout once today, I think, to get the play in, or before, or maybe a delay of game. They might have called one, I want to say.
Yeah, it was Shane Waldron, when it was about to be a delay of game, and they just called it just to be safe.
It's like, and Caleb said it too. He noted, like, we got it in a lot quicker with Thomas Brown, which is a great thing. But yeah, Caleb looked confident. The offensive line was banged up again. Hopefully they get Tevin Jenkins back, and they can get somewhat of a 5 solidified. Because they just haven't had 5. They've shuffled through 8-9 guys. Like nothing against Jake Curran, but like, dude, he's a practice squad guy for a reason. You know what I mean? And he didn't play bad today. Like there's nothing.
No, he didn't.
No, and he actually came in and did his job. But yeah, it's gonna be some uphill climb here now because you got Minnesota and the Bears won't be favored. But I think it's a winnable game at home. But Brian Flores is going to throw everything at you as a defensive coordinator. Like, and here's the other thing. What does Matt Eberflus always pin? Like, it's his defense. Like, that's his thing. That's what people attribute to him, the defense.
Yep.
He gave up some drives today, man. That were the first drive of the game, the first Packers drive of the second half, way too easy. Chunk play after chunk play after chunk play after chunk play. I think it was 4, 5 plays, maybe 6 plays on the second half, 70 yards for a touchdown. First half, it's pretty much the same thing, 70 yards, just about that. And they settled in, but then again, you give up the long play to Christian Watson, you give up the other long play to Christian Watson. You get you get 2 stops inside the 10. Like you get the interception, get the 4th and goal, which I had no idea what LaFleur was going for there. That didn't make any sense to me. That was crazy to me. I was fine with it. I'm like, wow. And obviously the Bears couldn't capitalize, but like, when they needed it the most, man, they couldn't get the stop. And, you could argue 20 points should be enough to give them enough to win. But like also, the Bears offense, I think, played well enough to win. It's tough, man. And it's hard. Like I said, it's coaching is just, it's a big, big problem with this team.
And to that point, because and again, I know we've discussed time and time again, it is not the Bears' way of doing things. Yeah. But what does this team have to lose, with the exception of money, clearly, because that's obviously an issue here, that why not give a guy like Eric Washington a 6-7 game audition?
Yeah.
to see if this is a guy that can figure this out, because all we heard about when the Bears brought in Eric Washington was his tenacity in Buffalo and what he was able to do with that defense. And I feel like we really haven't seen much of anything. And it is something that I personally believe we could see some teeth to this defense that we maybe are not seeing all of the time.
Yeah.
With Matt Eberflus calling the plays. And I wonder why they are okay with this mediocrity, because there are opportunities for up and coming, coaches on the staff that, they might be somebody that can figure it out. Even Richard Hightower. Like,
Yeah.
I
Thomas
know
Brown
that
would be a guy, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, you have Hightower, you have Washington, you have Brown. I mean, that's pretty much a fresh slate for what you've got going here. And again, clearly 30 losses, 14 wins.
No road wins on Sunday. 2-11 against the division.
And so we're here and next week it's a noon game against the Vikings at Soldier Field again. I mean, they're gifted this 3-game stretch of home games to try and get back on track out of the bye. They can't get it figured out. And there's a very good possibility that we're now talking about a team that is going to go on a 5-game losing streak and then is going to have to go on the road to Detroit on Thanksgiving, to San Francisco, who had a terrible loss today.
Yeah.
And then to Minnesota. And so, again, there's not a whole lot of room. And so, in my mind, I say, okay, if you were to do it, and I know this is a big hypothetical, the opportunity for it to occur is probably never going to come because, again, it's the way the Bears just do things. However, the fact that they did kick Shane Waldron to the curb was a welcome surprise, because I don't think anybody truly saw that coming.
But it kind of feels like bare minimum at some, you know what I mean?
It's a scapegoat move.
Yeah.
The whole thing is a scapegoat move. And yes, he was part of the problem.
Oh, yeah,
but
100%.
In the grand scheme of things, it should have been Thomas Brown and Eric Washington take over the play calling duties for both sides, elevate Richard Hightower or Eric Washington to head coach, and just pull off the Band-Aid. Get it all over with. But they didn't. They thought, okay, this is going to appease our fan base enough. And I think after today, I mean, heck, I stood in the same spot in my house that I did back in 2017, 2018 for the double doink to watch that play today. And I had the most severe PTSD standing in that moment, thinking nothing is changing and nothing will ever change because this is Bears culture.
Do you remember, was it 2020, when they played Thanksgiving in Detroit, and there was that report out that if Matt Nagy didn't win the game, they're going to fire him? Yeah. I wonder if we get that this year.
The Lions.
Yeah. I wonder if we get that this year. Because they're not winning that game in Detroit. There is absolutely no shot they're winning that game in Detroit at all.
I mean, but and that's the thing is so looking at this schedule, you got the Thursday morning game.
Yep.
And then it's a 3:25 the following
mini
Sunday.
bye week, essentially.
And then you have another long week after that because you're playing the Vikings on Monday night.
Yeah.
So you have 2 elongated weeks back to back.
Yeah.
And if they refuse to take advantage of making the moves to get this done, I mean, we go from 4-2. This team was 4-2.
Yep.
Easily at this point in time could have been 6-4, like you said, have the tiebreaker, be a playoff team, feeling good about themselves, coming off their first Packers win in years, but we're not.
No.
We are in deja vu country once again, despite the fact there were so many silver linings today.
It's tankathon.com time. That's what it is. It's tankathon time, dude.
Oh,
I mean,
man.
like, they're It's frustrating. It's just like you said. There's a perfect opportunity to do this. They're the Bears. They're the Bears for a reason. They're not going to do it. It's
How does
I
it
don't know,
make you
man.
feel? How does it make you feel that they're still 14th right now on Tankathon?
Yeah, that's tough. You want to know why though? Because like last week there was 9-2 and whatever teams.
Yeah.
That was crazy. But like Denver's getting better. They're already what 6 wins now. Um, they'll probably be what if they lose out. If they lose out, they'd be what 4-13. Oh my god, that's disgusting. If they lose out, they'll be 4-13. So they'll be in a top 6-7 spot. And then
Yeah,
you
I
have to fire. You
so
have to
so
absolutely fire everyone.
oh, absolutely. I mean, right now you're looking at New England at 6, the Jets at 7, Carolina at 8, Dallas at 9, Saints at 10, at 4 and 7. So
Yeah.
uh, it's
Some of
not
these teams,
pretty
though, no, some of these
because
teams are going to fall.
but not even that. But the top 5 is, I think we're going to see not much, if anything, because you have Jacksonville, Tennessee, Cleveland, Vegas, and the Giants. I mean, those
Oh, they're
are
bad.
5
Oh,
teams that are just not going anywhere and will not be going anywhere anytime soon. And let alone you got 2 tiebreakers over Tennessee and Jacksonville, who are at the top right now. But I mean, New England, they're going to drop below if they end up with a tied record. Carolina, yeah, that's another one. I mean, that one's already been taken care of. I don't know. I think if anything, you're probably looking by season end, that 8 to 11 range is probably where they're going to wind up.
yeah.
Is
Cincinnati.
my
If
guess.
Cincinnati wins, tonight, the Bears are down 1 spot.
Right.
Miami's probably going to win another game. New Orleans is probably going to win another game or two. Dallas is, I don't know. I don't know what their
Dallas is
schedule is.
terrible.
They're awful. But weird things happen. But why do we even have to why we shouldn't be talking about this?
I know.
This is
That's
crazy.
the worst part. That is the
This
worst
is
part. And
it's
I will say this too. I because the Packers defense is a very good defense. They have played very well. They have
yes.
forced turnovers. The Bears did not fall into that trap today. Uh, I'm going to try and remain positive here that they managed to make Rome Dunze a focal point of the offense. He had 10 targets today, 6 catches, 65 yards. DJ Moore, 7 of 7 for 62 yards. Keenan Allen, he picked up some key receptions. I'd still like to see a little bit more out of Cole Kmet, even though he only had 3 targets today. He brought all 3 of them in. But the balance of where the offense went today is where it needs to be. And I think that in itself is a positive. It's just they need to show a little bit more oomph to scoring. And unfortunately, that just was not the case today.
Yeah. Well, so there's a tweet out. Looks like his name is Sean Said. And he says Caleb Williams had his quickest time to throw and faced his lowest pressure rate of any game this season against the Packers, which is great because that tells you the offensive line was playing well for the most part. He wasn't getting pressured. He was making good throws, making good decisions. He was getting the ball out. Like it was working, and we saw a notable difference. Like I wrote on it, like the Bears first game under Thomas Brown, like there's progress with the offense already, which is crazy. I mean, like they didn't win the game, I get it, but like, they only put up 19 points. There was progress. Again, man, it's just tough to watch this, and you're just kind of left like speechless because they played well against the Packers for like the first time in a while, like week 17 or 18 last year, whatever it was. Like it was a 1-score game, but like you knew the offense was not going to do anything. Week 1, the offense was bad. The 2 games the year before was bad. Like it's heartbreaking, man. I feel for the fans that go out there, and I feel for it's hard, man. It's hard, but like I said, we shouldn't be at this point. They were 4-2. The Hail Mary absolutely was a backbreaker for them. I think it just totally ruined the morale of the team. And yeah, it's disappointing. And man, I don't know where they go from here. I really don't, because here's where they go here's where they go. Does Matt Eberflus have a working phone tomorrow morning on ESPN 1000?
Unfortunately, I think the answer to that is yes. But, all things considered, everything from here on out needs to be about Caleb Williams and his progress as an NFL quarterback and building him to a level that makes him a leader and a top option, a Pro Bowl player in this league. I think today was a good step forward to that. Like you mentioned, the quick time to throw. At halftime, he was averaging less than 2 seconds per time to throw. So, I mean, it was just go with what he had on the field. And then, they're getting back to his roots in at USC as well, just breaking down where they were with the motion. And over half of their plays on offense had a man in motion, which this offense did not have any week before this. So I think that there is an understanding that Thomas Brown has to make sure Caleb feels comfortable. We saw that comfortability today. Let's see where it leads. And hopefully, obviously, into the 20-point threshold and beyond that as we move along here. But time will tell. But, heck, this was a lot better of a performance than we've seen the last 3 weeks. That's for sure.
I had no faith in them going into this game. I thought they were going to get blasted by like 21. No.
I think everybody else did. I was ready to make other plans to not even watch the game. I mean, I'm just like, this is torture. Why do I do this to myself? And I think a lot of Bears fans felt that same way. And then they were reminded in those last 3 seconds, this is exactly why.
It's like the big brother has the ball and, you want to play basketball and he's just holding it up from you. And sometimes he'll bring it down and you get your hand on it and you're like, man, I'm going to get that ball finally. And the Packers just, nope, this is ours. Nope, this is ours. It's rough, man. It's rough.
It is very painful, but on to next week.
Yes.
The 4-6 Chicago Bears taking on the 8-2 Minnesota Vikings at Soldier Field.
Sam Darnold playing well.
It was another big win by them today. They took down the Tennessee Titans 23-13. Also on the road down in Nashville. Jordan Addison picking up a touchdown. Sam Darnold with 2 passing, 1 rushing touchdowns. So big day for him. See if the Bears can slow down the resurrection of Sam Darnold in 2014, which I don't think anybody saw coming, but here we are. And another divisional matchup, a chance for Matt Eberflus to maybe, if the Bears obviously will not do the right thing, to pick up his 3rd divisional win of his career.
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah, well, we'll see where it leads us, but we'll be back next week to we'll break it all down against the Minnesota Vikings, see where things lead, and then obviously heading into the short week against the Detroit Lions on Thanksgiving morning. A lot to come, and we'll see where exactly the Bears are, if the Tankathon watch continues or if there is some magic that can turn around this ship. We will find out. So for Zach Pearson, I'm Steven Johnson. Thank you for tuning in and listening. And we will see you next week for another post-game reaction right here on Bear Report. Take care.
Take it easy.